Commissioner Beach,
Here.
Commissioner Simmons, Commissioner Johnson, Commissioner Moore, Commissioner Jackson Jennings,
Present.
and you can proceed.
Mara, were there any public comments received for this meeting?
Yes, the agency received 5 public comments for today's meeting. The comments were distributed to the commissioners prior to the meeting for review and are provided on the online meeting materials. They will also be included in the minutes from today's meeting.
Thank you very much, Myra. I think we will have some more to come on that process as well. Moving us on to go ahead. Did somebody say something? Oh, didn't want to cut anybody off there. Moving on to number 4, approval of the minutes of the March 22nd, 2024 Operations Committee open meeting. These meetings have been provided to the committee for review. Is there a motion to approve these minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to item number 5, the on-call GEC services for communication systems engineering services. I'm going to ask Tom Curran for comments on this. Tom.
Thank you. Good morning, commissioners. This is a proposal to modify Bi-State's current contract with HNTV Corporation for on-call general engineering consultant communication services. In March of 2022, Bi-State entered into a contract with HNTV Corporation for on-call communication systems engineering services for $500,000 for a 5-year period. The services provided include projects ranging from planning studies to track maintenance and expansion projects. As the Metrolink system's communication needs continue to change, Bi-State is requesting additional funding to cover a number of projects planned from fiscal year 2025 through fiscal year 2027. These projects include CCTV for the East Tunnel, improvements to our public address and customer information system, design services for the Delmar and Forest Park communications buildings, fiber redesign in our Metrolink right-of-way, and emergency phones for our tunnels, bridges, and parking lots. Each project will be assigned a specific task order. In order to ensure timely completion of these projects between now and March of 2027, we are recommending that the individual task order amounts under the HNTB contract be modified from a maximum of $150,000 to an amount not to exceed $200,000 per task order. Management is recommending that the Operations Committee recommend to the Board of Commissioners that the President and CEO be authorized to modify our existing communication services contract with HNTB at an amount not to exceed $2 million. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions from anybody for Tom?
And is this per year or is that a 5-year contract, you say?
So this is adding 2 years onto the contract that is expiring. So it will be from 2025, fiscal year 2025, which starts July 1st of this year for us, through fiscal year 2027. So it's adding 2 years.
Gotcha.
Well, Tom, I have one just, I guess, clarification. What's the bid process like for this, or is there one if it's just an extension of an existing contract going to the current service provider? How does that usually work?
So with board approval, any contract can be extended beyond the initial term, as long as it goes to the Board of Commissioners. Typically, contracts are 3 or 5 base years, sometimes with option years. In this case, I did go back and look at the RFP, and there was competition for this project from 4 firms. And so as long as the board approves this, if we're in the midst of a project, you can extend it per this request.
Thank you. Okay, if there are no other questions for Tom, I believe a motion is needed to approve this. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to the next item, item number 6, Metrolink Station Secure Platform Design. And at this time, I'm going to ask Tom back up and Tim Nittler as well for comments.
Thank you. This agenda item is also a request for approval of a contract modification for an existing contract with HNTV Corporation for our Metrolink Station Secure Platform Design Services. In August of 2022, Bi-State entered into a contract with HNTV for design services for our Metrolink Secure Platform project. The original contract was for $6.9 million plus a 5% contingency for a period of 16 months. Since the time of the contract's execution, 2 90-day time extensions have already been issued to allow HNTV to keep working on existing tasks through July 12th of this year. A modification is being requested to include additional design services, including design services during construction. These include additional structural, lighting, and civil design due to changes in the SPP project concepts, a review of shop drawings and provision of responses to contractor requests for information, plus site visits, and additional project maintenance based on the extended project schedule, which will now end December 31st of 2025. Management is recommending that the Operations Committee approve and forward to the Board of Commissioners this request to authorize the President and CEO to execute a contract modification to the Metrolink Secure Platform Design Services contract with HNTV in the not to exceed amount of $2,881,819.61, which will increase the total contract amount to $10,177,836.06 with a new contract end date December 31st, 2025. Tim Nittler and I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions for the board to Mr. Kern or Mr. Nittler?
I have one. What's the reasoning for, I guess to put it simple, why were they so off as far as their time and their original bid?
Tim, could you speak to the changes?
Sure. So as far as the change in cost, we've requested them to do additional design services just because of the way that the concepts for the secure platforms were laid out. We did not envision any structural design or any backup power needs or actually signalized crossings of the rail. All those things have been added to the concepts and need additional design work. So there are some out of the original scope design efforts that need to take place. In regards to the time limit, the original contract was set up to perform strictly design work, and it was slated to be done in June or July of this year under the original schedule. But if the commissioners remember, Mr. Kevin Scott came to the board previously and explained that we were going to issue different phases of work instead of doing one continuous project and one overall construction project, that we were going to break it into 6 different packages. Those 6 packages have caused an increase in design time. So the current design is scheduled to be complete in November of this year instead of July, and that's based on the breakup of the packages and basically our request to kind of slow down the design, if you will. And then secondly, the extension to December of 2025 is to allow all the construction to take place and then close out of all the construction contracts, and then finally the closeout of this contract with HNTV.
Thank you, Tim. And so it sounds like a lot of it was on us as a reason. And Talby, do you have any thing to add to that as far as the timing?
I do. Thank you, Commissioner. So there's a couple of individual issues associated with getting the designer into a little bit, well, essentially getting their help on this project. One in particular is in St. Clair County. Incorporation of the parallel bike trail and that access point is adding some additional design that needs to be done to be sure that that's properly implemented. That's one. Makes sense, really good project, but I think we needed to envision a little better how to still, for instance, have very, very good access to the station and not impede that great St. Clair County asset, the bike trail, but still have a secure environment. So obviously that's a tough balance, and we've asked the designers to help us with some of that. Number two is we've had a couple of modifications associated with the complexity of the Central West End station, which is obviously our largest station, and the partnership with Barnes Jewish Hospital, BJC. They have invested quite a bit of money in station improvements there, and we wanted to be sure that our designs were sensitive to those two issues. The good news is that we've had 2 bids on SPP, and the first bid through the contractor through Millstone Weber was a little bit expensive. The second bid was under estimate. So as far as the overall project is concerned, we're doing actually quite well. And as a matter of fact, the beta testing with the existing stations, the gates are showing up. I hope you saw in the news that they're actually there, and this is very, very exciting. I can barely contain Mr. Scott. He actually happens to be on PTO, otherwise he would be here today. So Commissioners, a great question. Fundamentally, what this is taking our time and being sure that this very, very important project is executed properly. We needed a little help from our design partners at HNTB, then also to fit Mr. Scott's schedule. So it's a pretty minor change given the scope of the project, which is, of course, in the tens of millions of dollars, and does include incorporation of the new fare system as well. So I realize super complex. I want to give you as much detail as I can, but not take too much time. But great question.
Yeah, and I just wanted to kind of follow up on what Derek said, because I think I agree with where he was going there. And we understand the complexity of these projects are that there are going to be things and expenses that come up that you didn't necessarily account for. It's difficult to plan everything perfectly when you're doing something this big, but just to keep in mind, and I know Talby's, I'm sure, already enforced this with the staff, but to the extent that we can sort of see around the corner and forecast some of these things, and we've done a good job of doing it so far, but to the extent that we can, it's good to keep on task there, which has, in my opinion, been done so far. But I just thought it was worth anyway. Okay, any other comments on item number 6? Okay, on to 7 through 11. Items number 7 through 11 pertain to IDOT. Oops, sorry, we need a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The motion carries. Moving on to items 7 through 11 pertain to IDOT intergovernmental agreements for the 5 following items: the Curtis Steinberg Road Rehabilitation Project, the Taxiway Bravo final design, the wetland relocation and drainage improvements, terminal final design, and the airport layout plan. At this point, I would like to ask Mary Lammy for comments on this.
Alrighty, thank you and good morning. We are requesting approval for the President and CEO to sign an intergovernmental agreement with the Illinois Department of Transportation for the rehabilitation of Curtis Steinberg Road within the Gulfstream campus at the St. Louis Downtown Airport. In June 2023, Gulfstream announced their commitment to invest $28.5 million in modernizing existing hangars and the addition of 200 jobs in addition to their existing 500 jobs. Gulfstream's campus is made up of a dozen large hangar facilities with a dozen employee and customer parking lots. Curtis Steinberg Road serves all of these facilities. The original road was constructed in 1992. The current condition of the road includes cracking, loose aggregate, and potholes and poor drainage. The project would rehabilitate the road entirety while raising the portions of the road and improving drainage to mitigate the flooding. Upon completion of the project, Gulfstream will take control of the roadway and the responsibility of ongoing maintenance and future improvements. The project was included on the State of Illinois' March 8, 2024 letting. IDOT received a single bid from Chris Brothers Asphalt for $1,033,295. Total project cost with the engineering is $1,259,596. If approved, construction would start this summer and could be completed as early as this fall. The total project cost will be funded 90% by FAA, 5% by IDOT, 5% by State Development's Airport Fund, and the airport's portion would then be $62,979. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mary?
Sounds great, Mary. I just want to say that I always get so many compliments on the great job that you do.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So Commissioner, do you want me to keep going, or do you want to go ahead and pass this one as we go through each one?
I think we're just going to do a motion to pass all five unless any of the board members would like to split them up. We can do individual motions for each one if folks, well, this is what we'll do. We'll pass all five, and then if all five can't pass and we need to break them up, then we'll break them up. But let's just go all the way through.
Okay, very good. Okay, so we're going to go to item 8. This is requesting approval for an intergovernmental agreement with IDOT for the final design of the Taxiway Bravo reconstruction project at the St. Louis Downtown Airport. In 2009, FAA identified the reconstruction of the taxiway as a required project to meet and maintain federal safety standards. And it was included in the airport's state and federal capital improvement plan since 2012. Completed phases to date include the preliminary planning and engineering and the first construction phase. This design phase scope, the one that we're talking about right now, includes the remainder and final design of the taxiway project and the subsequent construction phases 3 through 6, which are identified on the map in your handouts. The design services will be completed by the airport's on-call engineer. This project would complete the remaining and final design of the taxiway project. The engineering fee has been reviewed and negotiated by Illinois' Division of Aeronautics. The total agreement amount and project budget is $480,000. The total project cost would be funded by 90% FAA, 5% by IDOT, 5% by State Development's Airport Fund. Our portion would be $24,000. Are there any questions?
Any questions for Mary?
Okay, I'm going to keep.
Go ahead. The number 9, please.
All right, number 9. Okay, we are requesting approval to sign an intergovernmental agreement with the Illinois Department of Transportation for the relocation of wetlands and the construction of drainage improvements on the airfield of the St. Louis Downtown Airport. The airport is a Part 139 certified airport. Part 139 is the federal regulation governing safety standards at airports who support certain levels of passenger service. The designation requires the airport to meet a wide variety of safety standards, including wildlife mitigation and management. The wetlands are adjacent to the runway, and they are home to various species, including turtle, fish, and rodents that attract predators like coyotes and birds. And obviously these pose a risk to our air traffic. The project is the second phase of the Taxiway Bravo reconstruction project. The project would remove and relocate approximately 8 acres of active wetlands, grade approximately 50 acres of runway and taxiway safety areas, and construct additional culverts. The construction portion that includes the grading, the removal of the wetlands and the culverts, that was included on a State of Illinois March 8, 2024 letting. The low bid on that was $1.3 million. The total project cost is a little over $1.7 million. That includes the construction, the engineering, and the wetland mitigation. The total project would be funded 90% by FAA, 5% by IDOT, 5% by State Development's Airport Fund, and by State's portion would be $85,832. Are there any questions regarding this agreement?
Any questions for Mary? Hearing none, please proceed to number 10.
Okay, very good. We are requesting a recommendation to enter into an agreement with IDOT for the design and development of the new general aviation terminal building at the St. Louis Downtown Airport. Due to water infiltration through the roof and windows and concerns for tenants and users, this project was initiated as a design build project to accelerate the project schedule, and the initial 30% plans were completed. To utilize the bipartisan infrastructure funding, which establishes a grant program for airport terminal projects, the airport is required to use a traditional design bid build method and provide full project plans. The project would complete the remaining 70% design of the new terminal plans. An engineering firm was selected through a request for qualifications, and their fee has been reviewed and negotiated by State Development's engineering staff and IDOT staff. The total agreement is $410,921. The terminal project grant funding eligibility is determined by whether or not a space is open to the public. Eligible design space will be funded 95% by FAA, 2.5% by IDOT, 2.5% by State Development. The ineligible part or the remainder would be funded by the airport at 100% and will be determined in the engineering and design process. Ineligible areas are the offices, the workspaces, and the storage spaces for jet aviation, our FBO, or a fixed-based operator. The agreement will not exceed $410,921. The airport's portion, the 2.5% of the engineering fee, plus the ineligible portion, is going to total $123,973. So the 2.5% is $7,357. The ineligible portion that includes the offices and workspace areas, that's $116,616. Are there any questions?
Any questions of Mary? Hearing none, please proceed to number 11.
Okay, very good. All right, we are seeking approval to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with IDOT for the development and updating of the airport layout plan and Exhibit A of the St. Louis Downtown Airport. The ALP is a long-term plan for the airport that identifies all current and potential infrastructure needs and possible future development. Each time by State Development accepts an airport grant that includes FAA funding, the airport is obligated to maintain the ALP and show the boundaries of the airport. The ALP process takes into consideration aircraft fleet changes, increased air traffic counts, and current and future airport and tenant infrastructure needs. The process includes extensive outreach and helps meet other FAA obligations, including maintaining consistency with local plans, consideration of local interests, and consultation with airport users. The last airport ALP was completed in 2006. Since 2006, the airport's tenants and users have not only increased in number, but have changed in type and size. That includes the addition of hundreds of annual operations of the wide-body aircraft, such as the Boeing 757. The planning and professional services will be completed by the airport's on-call engineer. Total cost for this is $583,512. 90% of that would be funded by IDOT, 10% by State Development's Airport Fund, and our portion would be $58,351. Are there any questions?
Any questions for Mary on item 11? Hearing none, Mary, I want to thank you for a very detailed, thorough report today and for all of your work on this matter. I think no questions means, everybody understands it. We think you're doing a great job. So thank you for that. Okay, so with this, I believe we can entertain a motion to approve the intergovernmental agreements contained in items 7 through 11. We'll just do them as one lump motion unless folks have objections to that. So a motion would be in order. Is there a motion?
Moved. Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? I believe the ayes have it. On to item number 12, which is unscheduled business. Talby, is there any unscheduled business at this time?
I have none.
On to item 13, which is an informational report from Chuck Stewart, the operations report. Chuck.
Good morning, Commissioners. You have an operations report in your packet. I'd like to highlight a few things for you. I'd like to start with our Metro bus operations. We have reached our budgeted level for bus operators for this fiscal year. This is a challenge that we've had the last year or so, but we've reached that limit. So again, we are planning a increase or a modification of service for our June 17th service change. With this service change, we will be making adjustments to 23 Metro bus routes. We'll be adding frequency to 15 of those routes, and then we'll be adding evening service back to 4 Metro bus routes. Again, we are focused at this point on frequency and reliability. We cannot expand our bus system yet until we can, of course, catch up with our call ride system. We continue to recruit call ride operators and mechanics. Those are our basic needs now in terms of focusing on increasing service at some point in the future. We continue to offer the $5,000 sign-on bonus for call ride mechanics and electricians. During the past couple of months, we have focused on community outreach. During April, we had a series of ADA open forums. 3 were in person, and the 4th was a Zoom call, basically focusing, communicating to the community what we are doing as it relates to improving our service with Call Ride. This month, we are having what we call Community Connect meetings, 4 scheduled again for the month of May, 3 in person at various locations throughout the community, and a 4th would be an online meeting on May 30th. Again, we're focusing on our entire system. So there are representatives from bus, Call Ride, MetroLink, security, etc., planning. We have team members from all of those areas at these meetings, and they're disseminating information to the public about what's going on in those areas. During the month of April, we did a survey of our ADA community. We were proposing that we make a change to our reservation system. Our current reservation system allows a person to call in 3 or 5 days in advance for a ride. Normally during the week, you can call in and get a 3-day window. On Fridays, you can call in and get a 5-day window. Our purpose, so we recommended that we go to next day, 1-day window, and we got about 157 replies on that. The feedback was all over the board, frankly. There was not a majority for any one situation. Our objective in doing this, one of the issues that we have in providing Call Ride service is, of course, we have denials, which we are working very hard to limit, but we also have cancellations. And what we found that is the larger the window in terms of making reservations, the more cancellations you get. So on Fridays, you could call in and you could make reservations for Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And what we found is that the concentration of calls was on Friday. And then as we got closer to the date that was scheduled, we got more cancellations. Well, frankly, our systems were not good enough to recover from that. So we said, well, let's do something shorter. At our meetings this week, we are kind of we're proposing that we go to a 3-day window. Basically, that would give us an opportunity, hopefully, to limit the number of cancellations as we go forward. We are proposing that on a pilot basis. Let's do it for 6 months. Let's see what the results are. I think we've got pretty good, the community has not voiced any real concerns about that. So I think we're going to move forward with that starting on July 5th. Other improvements are continue with Call Ride. We are still working to upgrade our reservation software. We're implementing a new phone system for the entire company this month. That is imminent. That will give us about 60 to 100 more call-in lines for Colorado, which should help us with that situation. And we continue to use the services of our ADA guru consultant. We are re-engaging him to do further services for us as we go forward. I'd like to share a couple of stats with you. I have before me, and I might be stealing Talby's thunder here a little bit. I have this great graph in front of me that I'm going to send to you after the meeting, but it basically looks at our key performance elements. It looks at the number of trips requested, trips performed, trips canceled, and ADA denials. So we changed our service area for Colorado around the April 2023 period. At that point, and these are weekly numbers, at that point we were getting, we had demand for about 10,000 rides a week. We were actually performing, completing something like 5,000. We had a denial rate of about 36%, which would be about 3,600 people. And we had a cancellation rate of about 14%, which is about 1,400 people. As of last week, our trips requested was about 9,000. Our trips performed were 6,634, like 74%, an improvement from 50% to 74%. Our denials were like 702. So our denial rate went from 36% at the beginning of this change in service to about 8% last week. The only thing that's been consistent is our trips canceled, which still are around 14 to 19%. So this recommendation or this suggestion in changing the reservation window was designed to help us eliminate some of those cancellations. We will continue to work on that. We will determine if there are other things we can do, but basically I'm pleased to report that our system is improving, Colorado is improving, our bus service is improving, our staffing is improving, and we're looking forward to further improvements as we continue throughout the year. I would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
I have a question, Charles. So when a customer cancels at the last minute,
Yeah,
a pickup, I assume that affects our ability to serve someone else that could have used that spot?
absolutely, absolutely. We don't quite have the rigorous software that we need that we could automatically just switch them to somebody else. So that is having a negative impact on us. Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Stewart, quick question. How are we defining missed trips? I'm looking
Well,
at the packet. Go ahead.
So I don't know if missed trips was one of the
It wasn't, but I'm looking at it in the pack.
used.
Yeah.
So missed trips, so in for a bus, for example, if that we have something scheduled and we just did not have a driver available to complete that trip, that would be considered a missed trip.
Thank you.
I had a question, and maybe I misheard. Did you say that so Colorado's only going to be going for 3 days moving forward, or that's just the cancellation window?
Certainly did not say that. The reservation window is 3 days.
Gotcha.
So you can
I thought so. I was like,
you call in
okay.
one day and request rides for the next 3. So as opposed to now on Friday, you can call in and request 5 days of rides.
Yes,
So we're just
that
gonna
makes sense.
limit it to 3 days. Yes.
Yeah.
Any other comments or questions for Chuck? Chuck, thank you and your team. And I just wanted to highlight, I think this is the second straight quarter that we've done service increases on. Is that correct, or am I?
Well, we did it in January, which was ahead of time because of our improvements in staffing that happened toward the end of last year. So we usually do it quarterly. So we did it. January was not a normal quarter. So
Mhm.
that was a special service change, and so we were able to increase frequencies considerably during that period of time. We kind of been tweaking it since then. We had a March service change. We're just trying to get that reliability up, get the frequencies up as much as we can. We're seeing that in time for the June service change, we will have another graduation of operators more available so that we can really focus on, again, another larger segment of our routes. So yeah.
I just wanted to commend you and your staff publicly for, focused attention to this over a couple of years of identifying the shortage in operators, coming to the board with a solution, implementing that solution. And it seems like after a year or so of really tough times with it, we're starting to turn the corner and provide better service, more reliable service. It's not perfect, but I wanted to thank all of you and your entire staff. Please tell them that we appreciate the work they're doing on this, because it does sound like we're starting to turn the corner on that.
Well, I certainly will. It is a team effort, and I have a very good team behind me.
Fingers crossed that the media will report favorably the resumption of service or expansion of service with the same fervor they report less than favorable news. Fingers crossed.
Agreed.
Editorial comment.
On to, I believe this is item number 14, the president and CEO report. Talby.
Very good. Yes, this time Mr. Stewart got to steal most of my thunder, so you guys heard that. Great. He's always accusing me of doing that, but gosh, Chuck, I almost felt like I misunderstood. We only have a percentage shortage of Metro bus operators at 1%, which is a huge, again, just talking about the progress. And then I see there, just to highlight for the Board of Commissioners, the call-a-ride operators, 89 candidates in process. So very, very good. The team really, with the monthly events, have gone very, very well. And of course, then that's meant that we have been going out, having more public meetings with the ADA community. And this new 3-day reservation window is indeed part of talking to the customers, getting feedback from them, and making some scheduling adjustments. We were proposing the next day idea, and our customers just weren't okay with that. So we made some adjustments, and Chuck has proposed this 3-day idea, and I think it's very, very good. So that's very exciting. We still have work to do. I just want to acknowledge we still have work to do. Ideally, I'd like to get those. Our goal should be to have denials at 0 and continue to improve the quality of our service. I will say Chuck and his team are dedicated to that. The whole culture at Call-a-Ride seems to be changing in a very, very positive way. We have a good manager down there. She's doing a great job. So I also want to mention that we did formally, on behalf of the city of St. Louis, enter into project development for the Green Line. We will be talking briefly in executive session about some of the documents we'll be bringing in the June meeting. Tammy will handle that actually in our next meeting on audit and finance, because we will be talking about money. But very exciting. I will tell you, we submitted that entry letter on Friday, and I got an email from the acting regional administrator at 10 p.m. that evening. And the point is that we have strong partners from our federal contingent, both in our Kansas City Regional 7 office and in D.C. Folks are excited about moving the project forward. Long, long way to go. A lot of work to do on it, but these partnerships are starting to bear fruit. And that concludes my remarks today. Back to you, Mr. Vice Chair.
Any comments or questions for Talby on that report? Here's there are none. Moving on to item number 16, we're going to need a motion that the committee go into executive session for the purpose of discussing legal, confidential, or privileged matters as permitted under by State Development Board Policy Chapter 10, Section 10.080 D1 Legal and D2 Real Estate. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Myra, please call the roll.
Commissioner Moore,
Present.
Commissioner Jackson Jennings,
Present.
Commissioner Cox,
Yes.
Commissioner Galladay,
Yes.
Commissioner Beach,
Yes.
Commissioner Gladney.
Yes.
The motion passed.